this past weekend we went to the reunion race, and we went there a little bit early on Wednesday to get some testing done. The goal for the testing session on that Wednesday was to try to get the 60 foots in the low 110s, maybe even a 108 or something like that, 60 foot. We got really close. We did a 112 60 foot, which I think is the best 60 foot on the solid axle. What's crazy about that is we still have not surpassed the best 60 foot on the IRS. So we went 110 60 foot on the IRS setup, and this car with the solid axle, we still haven't gotten there. So I've been like pushing and pushing to try to get that 60 foot where it needs to be and where it should be with a solid axle setup. So that's what the goal was for this, the reunion race, was to go there, try to get a 108, something like that, 60 foot. But we didn't quite get there, but we did learn a lot about the clutch, and we actually think we have a really good handle on the clutch going forward. And I think that record will be coming back to me sooner than later. But we also ran into some problems at the event. And in the second round, I end up losing the small turbo. So that's what's left of the small turbo there. Here quickly, you can see we got a slight hole in our charge pipe coming from the little turbo that feeds into the big turbo. You can look in there and see we got something in there. It's a turbine wheel. So the turbine wheel from the little turbo came out down in through here and was that close, which is about 8 inches from going into the turbine housing of the big turbo. So I don't know if the big turbo is okay, but we'll take this all apart and find out here later. You can see here, this is the bullhorn. You can see all the pieces of the exhaust wheel in there. So chances are the turbine wheel on the 110 millimeter turbo is screwed up as well. But we'll know for sure once we take it all apart. You can see on the downpipe where the turbine wheel dented it out like it was banging down through there. So surprisingly, this turbine wheel looks pretty good on the 110. Not really much shaft play. You can see the little particles on there, but it doesn't look chewed up real bad. So hopefully the 110's okay, but check out the downpipe. So this is the turbine exit of the little turbo. You can see it machined some more clearance in there in the downpipe on its way out. And if we look up at the turbo itself, you can see nothing left in there. Damn. There's the shaft just laying in there. You see that, John? A little bit of damage there. I think the turbo might still work. Damn, that's nuts.
So do you think the turbo might still work?
Yeah.
We weld it back together.
Yeah, we'll weld it back together. I think the 110 is okay. I'm hoping anyway, but we'll get it serviced just to be sure. So I don't know what shape the engine is in yet, but it looks like we did machine some aluminum off of this wheel and also off of the housing here. You can see this lip where it machined off material. So we would have some aluminum dust that went through the engine. Hopefully it's not too bad though, and the engine is still healthy, but that's to be determined yet. Basically, second gear, the car spun really hard, and the motor zinged up to the limiter, and when it went up to the top of the limiter, that's when the turbo let go. It was like 105 PSI back pressure and about 88 pounds of boost. So nothing like we haven't really seen before. It's pretty typical for this setup to have that kind of back pressure and that kind of boost. I think it was just the high RPM and the sudden shock of it and how quickly it came up there that it spit the turbine wheel out and basically destroyed that little 7685. One of the cool things about the event, even though we didn't win and we didn't get to go, as far as we did. The car was being super consistent. It was running 7.0, 690. I think it was on another 690, 680, maybe even pass on that one where it let the turbo go. And that was, you know, right in line with getting to the finals, but unfortunately the turbo let go and that ended the night early. One of the other things that happened at that event is I think it was the first qualifier. We had like a 7.0 or a 7.1 tune in it set up for the heat of the day pass. And it actually, it ran a 659.
First parent stick, they are on their way. Right hand side lights the tires afire. Left side Grannas to the finish line. How about a 6:59 at 205? That is a brand new elapsed time record. Ladies and gentlemen, say hello to your world's quickest.
One of the guys in another car came down at the end of the track and said, "Hey, look, you ran a 6:59, congrats." And I was like, no way, 6:59, that didn't feel that fast. You know, people always say, when you run your fastest pass or your quickest pass, it never feels quite that way. And that's how it felt to me. So I thought, oh, maybe it's right. But when we went up to the ticket booth and I got my time slip, it showed a 0.70 60 foot. And immediately I was like, well, it's a bunk pass. It was a timing error. On the first beam, something drug and made it hang the 60 foot. So that affected every incremental down the track. So basically it was like a buzzkill, like, oh man, I got the record back. And then no, definitely not. It was not a valid pass. So that was kind of one of the crappy things that happened at an event on top of this crappy thing that happened. So one of the cool things though, my family, this was the first time my wife and the kids have come out to watch me race in the orange car. Before we had kids, you know, like 9 years ago, my wife used to always come out and watch me race in the white car. But at this event, I felt like it was time for them to come out. My youngest boy is really excited about the car and loves talking about the car and watching videos. So they got to come out, see the race, see me race in person. It would have been cool to win the event, but unfortunately, you know, stuff happens.
We got a 6.9.
And they were super excited also when I ran the 6:59. They knew that was the number I needed to run to beat Grubworm. But we'll get it back together here. We'll get this thing, you know, back in tip-top shape, and we'll be back out there trying to get that record back again.